The Atlanta Braves have selected 21 players in the 2025 MLB Draft. Here's what they were trying to do with these selections. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Tuesday, July 15th. Your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. This is another version of what I wrote last night over on bravestoday.com, but I'm also going to get into a little bit more of the background here on the strategy, making sure everybody understands the slotting system and how all of that stuff works with Atlanta's draft. But they have completed it, finished up yesterday. They have taken 21 players. They had their standard 20 selections, and then they had a compensatory pick after the fourth round for losing Max Fried in free agency after he declined their qualifying offer. So I want to go through all of the non-first round guys, or non-day one guys. We talked about the day one guys yesterday on the show, so go back and check that out. I also did throw out a couple names of guys I wanted to see Atlanta take on day two when they grabbed one of those guys, so kind of brush shoulders off a little bit there on that. But let's talk about all of these guys, what Atlanta was trying to do with these picks, and how the money's going to work. And quick reminder on the money. So every pick in the first 10 rounds has what's called a slot value, right? It is the assigned dollar amount for that pick. Now, it is not binding, right? Teams can go above or below on what they offer to prospects or to draftees. And those players can sign or not sign. And so because of who has leverage, you commonly see a lot of players end up coming in above or below what their slot is, right? The players with the most leverage, high school seniors, right? They can go to college. They're all committed to college. They can go to college. In the NIL era, they can get paid in college and then re-enter the draft in 3 years. Some of them, if they're draft eligible sophomores, can do it in 2. That's all age-based. If they go to a junior college, they can enter even earlier, although they're usually not getting NIL money in college if they're a JUCO guy. After that, college juniors have the next bit of leverage because they have one more year they can go back and play in college baseball. And again, they can get paid to go play college baseball. Now, the difference there is when they come out in the draft next year, they better hope that they got themselves up into the very top of the draft because they do not have any leverage from that point forward. Because college seniors have exhausted their eligibility, they are typically not offered full dollar amounts, right? So those prepsters that have all the leverage, they get what are called overslot deals. They're offered more money than that spot to sign because you have to pay them extra to convince them to skip college. Those college seniors, we call them senior signs, they are significantly underslotted. They are offered less money than their assigned slot to sign because they don't have any leverage. If you don't want to sign with the Braves after they draft you, you don't have eligibility left. You got to go play independent ball or something for a year and then try again. So that is the dynamic behind the money. And the other thing to keep in mind as we do this, I'm going to tell you about, I say all 21 players. I'm going to tell you about 18 of the players. The first 3 we talked about yesterday. And I'm going to talk about these players from the perspective that they make the majors. This is what to expect if they make the majors. In reality, once you get past, even the second round is only a 50-50 shot to make the majors. Anything past the second round, recent research from Baseball America shows you have a less than 50% chance to make the majors after you pass the second round. And even if you make the majors, only 5% of drafted players every year actually produce positive WAR, meaning they are better than the average MLB player. So I'm going to do this show, and I always did this on my prospect podcast I used to have that we won awards for. I'm going to do this from the perspective of, we're going to assume these players make the majors. What does it look like when they do? Okay? But just understand, of these 21 players, I'm going to guess 16, I guess probably 16 to 17, if not more, never make the majors. And maybe you get one or two above average contributors out of this entire group. And that's just standard for baseball, okay? All right, so we know that in day one, Atlanta took 3 shortstops. Prep Tate Southacene in the first round, Florida State shortstop Alex Lodis in the second, and East Tennessee State shortstop Cody Miller in the third. And Miller was a guy that was not expected to be taken in the top 100. Okay? Southacene was expected to be taken in the second round. Both of those guys are expected to come in. Miller should definitely be under slot. Southacene's probably either going to be under slot or right there at slot. He won't take extra money to sign, because if he had actually gotten taken at pick 39, where he was projected on MLB.com versus the actual pick 22, his bonus would be smaller. So he's not going to require more than the slot value. A lot of those savings, Atlanta used those early on day 2. The first pick of the 4th round for Atlanta, they had 2 picks. Remember, one of those was the compensatory pick for Max Fried. The first pick of the 4th round for Atlanta, pick 127, was North Carolina prep lefty Briggs McKenzie. He was, this is nice value for them there. He was number 69 on MLB.com's big board. He's committed to LSU. And LSU is a school that is very tough to get their players to not report to campus. I have been told in previous drafts, like the last 2 years, they have specifically approached certain players that were drafted by MLB and offered to match those signing bonuses for those players to come to campus. So it's a $588,000 slot value. He probably requires more than that to sign. But mid-90s fastball already. He can't carry it super deep in the start, so that's something you're going to have to work on with him. Again, he's a prep player. That's going to happen, right? It's a very good curveball, and then he has a changeup with it. The changeup needs a lot of work. He throws strikes. The mechanics are a little bit messy. So I expect this to be, when Atlanta gets him in the organization, it is number one, they are working on adding strength to build his endurance, to carry that velocity in starts, and it'll bump up his velocity a little bit too. I expect them to give him a slider, and I expect them to really kind of clean up his mechanics to just make it a smoother delivery so that, one, it's repeatable, that helps his control, but then also he's just better able to withstand the rigors of starting. But promising player. He's been compared by some people to Mackenzie Gore. I think that's because Mackenzie Gore was also a prep lefty out of North Carolina, but I can see a little bit of the similarities, right? The big difference here, Gore went in the first round because his velo shot up his senior year of high school. Mackenzie's didn't, but he's still able to touch mid-90s. After that, with the compensatory pick, the Max Fried pick, they took Dixon Williams out of East Carolina. He played shortstop. It's East Carolina University. He played shortstop for them, but Atlanta announced him as a second baseman. This is one of the themes, not the position change. There's a theme here with this pick that Atlanta does quite a bit, and they did it quite a bit this year. He's a former football player, so he's a fantastic athlete. And he hasn't been playing just baseball for that long. And so there's a little bit more development you can do because he hasn't been focusing on baseball exclusively from the age of like 12, like a lot of kids end up doing, right? He's only been exclusively focusing on baseball for the last, I think, 2 seasons. So you have more development that you can do. Atlanta likes to do this. AJ Smith-Shawver is a great example of that. He was a high school quarterback first and a pitcher second, and didn't really focus on just pitching until he got into Atlanta's organization. He only had like a year or two of pitching underneath his belt when they took him in the draft. And he shot through the minors that second season in the minors. Like he spent all of year one in single A. Year two, he shot through the minors and debuted. That's what they're hoping they can do with Dixon Williams. And there's a couple other guys like that that I'll touch on as we go through. The other underslot deal or overslot deal they're going to have to do here, Connor Essenberg was an outfielder out of the state of Illinois they took in the 5th round. This is one, he has a commitment to Kentucky. He's a two-way player in high school, and reports are from people I know that covered Kentucky baseball, Kentucky was going to let him do both. Mid-90s fastball on the mound, pretty decent like slurve, two-plane breaking ball. Atlanta announced him as an outfielder. The belief is he could be a 20, 25 homer guy, but he's already limited to a corner profile, right? And so the question's going to be, how does the physical development go? Does he have to bump down from a corner outfield because of his speed to first base? Can he stay in the corner outfield? The arm is obviously very good. The stylistic comparison that I would give you here, and again, I don't love the idea of comps, but I just want to give you an idea of the type of player his game works after. I think about Jorge Soler. Not the fastest guy, has a really good arm in the outfield, can hit, but he's there to hit bombs. That's what Connor Essenberg could be, or that's the style of play he's going to be able to give you. The next pick, and the first one we're going to do before we go to break, is a guy I actually mentioned on Monday as somebody I wanted the Braves to go out and grab. Lefty Landon Beetleshees out of Arkansas, University of Arkansas. He was a closer at Ohio State. He moved into the rotation, and then he transferred to the SEC. He's mostly throwing just fastball slider, but I saw him throw some good changeups in SEC play. Before the MLB season starts, I spend every weekend just about in an SEC press box watching college baseball. And so, I saw him throw some pretty good changeups. I think that Atlanta can make him into a mid-rotation starter. There's a lot of work to do there, right? They've got to fix that third pitch. I'd love for them to give him a curveball as well. You need some velocity growth there. But he throws plenty of strikes. Like, the delivery's consistent. He just has to get better with being able to carry velocity into starts and all of that. Another stylistic comparison here, right? Think about Grant Holmes, right? A reliever. The cutter was devastating for him. Beetleshees is fastball slider. But Grant Holmes' best pitch now is his slider. He figured out how to, from a physical perspective, last in the rotation. Beetleshees can be a guy like that. So he's got to work on his velocity a little bit in a starting role. He's got to be more consistent. There's development to do here. But I like the package and what you can do with it. In just a minute, let's get to somebody Atlanta selected that actually made history for his school. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby kind of going over all of Atlanta's picks, telling you who these guys are. And then at the end of the show, I'm going to tell you what I think Atlanta was trying to do with the overall draft. Their themes, their ideas, what they were trying to work on. The 7th round pick, number 217, Zach Royce, a right-handed pitcher out of San Antonio, UTSA. He has the first ever win in the postseason for UTSA. They made the Austin Regional this year. They were a 2 seed. They went to Austin, Texas, hosted by Texas, and he was the winning pitcher when they beat Kansas State to open the thing. Okay. He's got a really good, it's either a slider or a cutter. It's in the upper 80s. I think it's a cutter. I'm not 100% sure. But either way, very good pitch. Pairs it up with a mid-90s fastball. The fastball doesn't do as much as I thought it would. Like, it gets hit a little bit more than it probably should. But it's just a really good, I'm going to call it a cutter, I think, given the velocity. I think it's a cutter. This feels like he's a guy that is going to start for like a season in the minors and then they're going to bump him to the bullpen. And when they do, I really think he could move quickly. I really like his stuff, that cutter and kind of what he can do with it. So I think he's going to be a guy that they're going to move. I saw a rumor he's working on a splitter. So cutter, fastball, splitter is an interesting combination. You don't see a lot of guys that don't have breaking balls. If it is a cutter, it'd be 2 fastballs and a splitter. It's a weird package to not have a breaking ball. So maybe they work on a curveball if that thing is more of a cutter. Anyway, point is, I like the stuff. I do think he ends up being a reliever. And then after that, Atlanta went with 3 consecutive senior signs, right? These are all guys that aren't going to get a lot of money. The slot values for these 3 guys together come out to just over $600,000. I'd be surprised if these 3 combined get $100,000. Probably even less than that. They probably maybe combined for 50. But if they work out, you can see how they could contribute in Atlanta. 8th round, Carter Lovaz, a righty out of William and Mary. 130 strikeouts in 92 1/3 innings the last 2 years, but his walk rate doubled this year. Probably a reliever. I don't have a lot of details about what he's thrown, but if he makes it, it's as a reliever. Outfielder Logan Braunschweig out of UAB, one of 2 UAB players Atlanta took in this draft. He is a speedy up the middle defender, right? He has 10 home runs in 4 college seasons, but he hit 306. He has 72 stolen bases across that span. So he's going to be a center fielder that gives you speed and defense. He's probably maxing out as a 4th outfielder, but if he makes the majors, you'd be happy. And either way, he's going to make your organization better. The 10th round, this one's really interesting to me. It's a senior sign, yes. Cade Woods out of LSU, the righty. He's thrown a total of 32 innings in college between Alabama and LSU. Okay? Just not a lot of experience in college here. He's not going to get very much money at all to sign. But in the MLB Draft League, the stuff has looked really, really good. Sitting in the upper 90s, 13 strikeouts in 9 1/3 innings. Flip side of that, he walked 9 and hit 4 more in those same 9 1/3 innings. So this is a senior sign. He's not going to be a lot of money, but if it works out, the stuff is already there, he just has to figure out where the heck it's going. So if this ends up working out for Atlanta, this is a fantastic pick. This is a dude with tons of tools. It is very hard to teach stuff. He has stuff. You just have to harness it. You have to turn him from a thrower into a pitcher, but he's got stuff. Really interesting pick here. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster on some of these. Started in the 11th round. These are not slotted. From 11 through 20, these are not slotted, which means if you sign these players for $150,000 or less, they don't count against your pool. If they don't sign, you don't lose pool money. That's the other big thing. That's why you take senior signs in rounds 7 or 8 through 10, because those guys are all going to sign for little money. You save the money for your underslot preps earlier, and you save the money for things like here. They grabbed a couple juniors, a bunch of juniors. They only grabbed 1 senior in this entire back half of the draft. Because if these guys don't sign, you don't lose the slot value out of your pool. So you can be a little more speculative on these picks. Colin Daniel was a junior righty at UAB. He has been amazingly consistent. His ERAs in the last 2 seasons, 3.13, 3.15. Started 14 games in both seasons, 91 in the 3rd innings in one season, 92 innings in the other season. He's just a fastball gyro slider. In the write-up, I called him a set it and forget it guy. He goes out there every 5th day, he makes his start, and you're good to go. Your organization's better with him. If you can give him a good 3rd pitch, work on the velocity a little bit, you could see how he could be a back-end starter who you could just plug into the rotation, and he'd give you 150 innings over the course of a season with an ERA of 4. That is valuable. We don't love to hear that. That is valuable. In the 11th round, that'd be an amazing development success. But he's one of 2 guys they took that's just like a workhorse. You just write him on the lineup card in ink once a week, and you're good to go. 12th round, Jay Woolfolk out of Virginia. He was a reliever before he was a starter. He was much better as a reliever than a starter, but he did cut both his walks and his homers allowed in his senior year. Upper 90s fastball, slider. I really do think, changeup too. I really do think that if they wanted him to just start as a reliever right away, he could move quickly, but they might have him be a starter. He was another, like a former quarterback that hasn't spent a ton of time playing just baseball. So another guy that maybe has more development than your typical college senior would have when you draft them. A little bit quicker here, Logan Forsythe in the 13th round, right-hander out of Louisiana Tech. Really good velocity, upper 90s fastball, good slider, has a bunch of walks, right? I would just start him as a reliever immediately, but the stuff is there. That's a theme with a lot of these guys. Matthew Curtis of Virginia Tech was a transfer up from South Carolina upstate to Virginia Tech. Ton of strikeouts, high whip. He was giving up a lot of contact. I feel like there's something there, but I just don't really know what to do with him. The stuff doesn't impress me. This may be a guy where they just kind of tear him down and they rebuild with a whole new arsenal and better mechanics. I don't know. We'll see. Outfielder Dallas Macias of Oregon State in the 15th round. Awful 2025 season. Like, he hit like under 200. But in 24, he hit 315 with a 512 slug. His arm is okay. So if he's not playing center, he's in left. He doesn't have a great arm. But another up-the-middle guy. He's committed to TCU as a transfer. So I don't know if they sign him or if he just goes to TCU, tries to have a good year, and get drafted again, although he would be a senior if he did. 16th round, Nico Wagner is a JUCO. He transferred down from Nevada. 95-mile-an-hour fastball. No idea what it's doing. I think they found him in the MLB Draft League. 17th round, Brody Fowler, a righty out of North Greenville. I think it's a D2 school. Multi-sport player, two-way player in college that's just kind of new to being a pitcher only. 6'7", 240, 90 strikeouts, 17 walks, and 83 2/3 innings. Okay. Avon Cabral at 18th round, righty out of Northeastern. Was an all-star in the Cape Cod League last year. Another guy who just stacks up innings, right? Another workhorse guy like Colin Daniel that you can just pencil out there every 5th day, and your org's always going to have that dude to start for them. 19th round, Ryan Hepner, a righty out of the University of British Columbia in Canada. I've got nothing. Everybody I've talked to has got nothing on this guy. So I'm sure the Braves saw something they like. I know nothing about him other than his name is Ryan Hepner, and he has a baseball reference page. That's all I've got. The baseball reference page says he had a 3.42 ERA and a 12-4 record across 110 innings for 2 years in University of British Columbia. But he only threw 38 2/3 innings last year as compared to 72 the year before. I'm guessing he was hurt. I don't even know. I know nothing on this kid. The last guy here, outfielder Hayden Freeze out of Western Carolina. I actually have some really good data on him, okay? I was talking to somebody who, a data analytics guy for college. For Hayden Freeze, he is one of 9 hitters in all of Division I that had a specific set of 4 offensive things you're looking for. A walk rate over 10%, a strikeout rate under 17%, a max exit velocity of over 109, and zone contact of better than 90%. So he's hitting the ball hard. He's not whiffing a lot in the zone. He's drawing plenty of walks, and he's not striking out too much. And all of his info here, like all of his specific numbers for those, are even better than the basic grouping here. Zone contact of 93%, strikeout rate was 10.1%, while his walk rate was 12%, so very close to each other. And a max exit velocity was 111.6. He hit 11 homers in all of college, 9 of them were last year. It feels like if he makes the majors, he's going to be a left field playing version of Drake Baldwin. A lefty swing, he can get to balls to all fields, he can hit them with power. Not the fastest guy in the world, but like he might end up playing first base for you. But he's just, I mean, it's going to be years and years from now. It's not anytime soon. It'll be 4 years from now. But a really great package to start off with in the 20th round. Okay, let's talk about what the Braves were trying to do here. I noticed some themes in this, and I want to kind of explain what I think they did. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today for the Tuesday show and until Friday. Just a quick heads up. I mentioned this earlier, but after this show goes up, I am picking the kids up from summer camp. We are going off for a couple days, kind of take a little break. I'm unplugging from baseball. I'm unplugging from like work, my phone, everything. I've got a book called Skipper, Why Baseball Managers Matter and Always Will by the recently passed sports writer Scott Miller. Excited to read this by the pool with a drink in my hand, probably a Mai Tai. I drink a lot of bourbon, but I also have a thing for Mai Tais. I really enjoy Mai Tais. So they have a tiki bar at the place we're going to. I'm going to just kind of read some books and drink some Mai Tais over the next couple days. We will be back on Friday with a live show. So we are doing the Friday live show again because the season starts back up on Friday for Atlanta. But no shows on Wednesday or Thursday. Okay, so what was Atlanta trying to do in the draft this year? And again, I think we need to acknowledge this was different than most years. What Atlanta normally does is they take pitchers early and then they load up on bats in the back half of the draft. They did the opposite here. Atlanta took only 2 bats from the 11th through 20th round. I think last year they had I want to say it was 6 or 7 maybe. It was 8. Atlanta had 8 bats in the final 10 picks last year. This year, it is literally just 2 bats in the back half because they took a lot more position players up front. They started off with athletic up the middle defenders. They, just like they always do, they still found a way to save a little bit of money so that they could overslot 2 preps in Briggs McKenzie in the 4th and Connor Essenberg in the 5th. Now, unlike other drafts, I think they may have run out of money because I would have expected a 3rd significant underslot. Okay? When you look at what they did last year, Atlanta had actually quite a few underslots. They had Nick Montgomery in the 5th, the catcher. They had Ethan Bagwell, the pitcher, in the 6th. And then they had grabbed some the 12th round, the 15th round, and then in the 20th, they got outfielder Eric Hartman, out of Canada, actually, to a $337,000 deal overslot in the 20th round. Okay, so they try to go grab multiple overslot guys. The real only 2 overslot prep guys you're looking at here are McKenzie and Essenberg. So I'm guessing the dollar amount that they got from somebody was higher than they were expecting. And so they never really took a swing on that 3rd overslot guy that I thought they would. Despite that, I still like a lot of these picks. They went for athletes. They went for multi-sport athletes or 2-way players that are either going to now start being just one side of the ball or have just recently started being one side of the ball, which means you have more development runway with them than other players. They're not as far along on their development paths as most players their age and their experience level in college or whatever would have been, right? It's a smart way to do it. Cade Woods obviously did not pitch a lot in college in the 10th round out of LSU, so they've got more development on him there as well. They did grab, those late top 10 round picks likely relievers, if not straight relievers. And some of those are just senior signs. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get relievers, right? But they specifically targeted that whole stretch of like the 10th through the 16th, 17th, whatever. They were targeting either dudes who had stuff but had some control issues, right? Woods, Forsythe, Woolfolk, whatever. Or those workhorse dudes that have shown the ability to just stack innings. Daniel, Fowler, Cabral, whatever. I do like that 20th round pick of Hayden Freese. I think he could be a guy that ends up, I could see a path to him making the majors as a first base left field kind of high contact, maybe a little bit of an atypical profile. He's not your typical masher at first base or at left field, but a guy who could make the majors as probably a platoon guy and a backup that can rotate in at both positions. I like that. So what's going to happen now? Atlanta has until August 1st at 5 p.m. to sign their picks. The reminder here, if you don't sign a kid in the first 10 rounds, that's 11 total picks because you had the extra 4th round pick for Max Fried leaving, you get a replacement pick for that player one spot after theirs this year. So like 7th rounder Zach Royce of UTSA, pick number 217. If he doesn't sign, you lose the $265,400 in the slot for that pick, but MLB gives you pick 218 that year, one spot behind his pick. Now, it is very unlikely anybody in the top 10 rounds doesn't sign. Last year, it was 4 players that didn't sign, and that was the most that we've seen since like 2019 or whatever. So if they're going in the top 10 rounds, assume that they're signing. They very rarely do not sign in those situations. That's why you see some of the speculative picks end up being your 11th round, your 12th, your 13th, your 20th round. Your 20th round, we took a high schooler last year because we were like, oh, we have some extra money. We've started the bonus conversations. We project to have some extra money. So we grabbed a prep in the 20th round and we're like, we're just going to pay to get him to break his college commitment and come sign with us. And they did. It felt like they were surprised by somebody this year and just didn't have that money to do that. But talented hitters, a lot of pitchers with traits. I like this draft. It's obviously impossible to grade this draft until, if nothing else, we get signing amounts. We get bonus figures. Draft grades in general are pretty dumb. There's so many things that go into this. They're pretty dumb unless you're looking at the draft grade from the perspective of, here's the strategy they tried to do, here's the talent they went with, versus our rankings of the talent that was available. Was there a better way to execute the strategy they wanted to execute? That's really the only way to do a draft grade. I think they're dumb. I had somebody tweet at me yesterday saying, hey, we're getting poor draft grades for these first couple picks. And I'm like, that's just dumb to even don't do the picks, do the grades while the draft is still going on, because you're saving money with your first round pick. You're saving money with your 3rd round pick to go get 2 players in the 4th and the 5th who were probably seen as 2nd to 3rd round talents, right? So rather than getting a 1st round talent and 2 4th round talents and a 5th round talent, you got, in essence, 3 2nd round talents, a 3rd, a 4th, and another 4th. Like, that's kind of what you did here. All in all, not a bad draft. We'll see what happens. I do like that there's not a ton of prep pitching. I'm just not really huge on prep pitching. Some organizations, the Phillies, love to draft prep pitchers. They didn't this year. They really went college heavy. But it's just one of those situations where the development timeline takes so long and there's so much risk, and the injury risks specifically, that I don't love doing it. There's a reason no prep right-hander has ever been the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Ever. It's never happened. Atlanta almost did it. The Chipper Jones draft. They were going to take a prep right-hander, and his bonus ask was too much, so they pivoted to Chipper Jones, and it totally worked out. But there's never been a prep right-hander taken number one overall, and it's because that is the riskiest demographic. That is the least likely to make the majors and give you a positive contribution. So I feel like with their draft slot and what they did, I feel like they did well. Only 3 picks in the top 100, like the 3rd or 4th lowest pool. I like the draft. Let's see when these guys sign. I'll be tracking the signings. A lot of other people do too. A lot of people are better at it than me, but I'm going to try to keep track of all of the signings and where the guys are. And I'll be probably coming to you throughout the next couple weeks with news on, hey, this guy signed, this guy signed. It was more or less than we thought it was going to be. Do me a favor, if you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review. Spotify, YouTube Music. Apple lets you leave comments. You leave a funny review, I'll read it on the show on Friday. I've decided I'm going to do that. So I'll check those on Thursday when we get back, and I'll do that on Friday on the live show. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live on Friday, when we drop our new episodes, when we drop a short, when there's breaking news. I've realized that people who follow us mainly through YouTube need a way to get that news too. So I've been trying to do a short when like Didier Fuentes gets optioned down, right? Things like that. So I'll try to keep doing that to help keep you guys informed as well. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.